Imagine this. A man walks onto a plane. 2 hours later, he jumps out with $200,000 strapped to his body. And then he vanishes. Forever. This isn't a movie. This actually happened. And after more than 50 years, nobody knows who he was, or if he even survived. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the greatest mysteries in American history. The D.B. Cooper hijacking. It's the only unsolved plane hijacking case in the entire history of commercial aviation. On November the 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, a mysterious man pulled off the perfect crime. He hijacked a Boeing 727, demanded ransom money, and parachuted into a stormy night over Washington state. And here's the crazy part. Despite one of the biggest FBI investigations ever conducted, they never found him. Was he a criminal genius, a military veteran, or did he die during the jump? Let's find out. To understand this story, we need to go back to 1971. America was different back then. Airport security barely existed. You could walk onto a plane without showing ID. No metal detectors, no bag searches, nothing. It was Thanksgiving Eve, November the 24th. People were traveling home to see their families. Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 was preparing for a short 30-minute flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington. Just a quick hop up the coast. The flight had 36 passengers and 6 crew members. Everything seemed normal. Just another routine flight. But one passenger was different. He bought his ticket at the counter using the name Dan Cooper. He paid cash, about $20. He was wearing a business suit, a black tie, and dark sunglasses. He carried a briefcase. He looked like any other businessman heading to Seattle. According to witnesses, he was a white man, mid-40s, around 5 feet 10 inches tall. He had dark hair and a calm, polite manner. Nothing about him seemed threatening, but inside that briefcase was something that would change aviation history forever. The mystery. At approximately 3 p.m., Flight 305 took off from Portland. The Boeing 727 climbed into the gray November sky. Most passengers settled in for the short flight. But about 20 minutes after takeoff, something strange happened. The man, calling himself Dan Cooper, handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She thought it was just another passenger trying to flirt with her. She almost put it in her pocket without reading it. But Cooper leaned over and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Florence opened the note. Her face went pale. The note said he had a bomb in his briefcase and was hijacking the plane. Cooper opened his briefcase slightly. Inside, Florence saw what looked like red cylinders, wires, and a battery. It looked like a real bomb. She had no reason to doubt him. Florence immediately informed the captain. Cooper's demands were specific and clear. He wanted $200,000 in cash. That's about $1.5 million in today's money. He wanted 4 parachutes, 2 front chutes, and 2 back chutes. And he wanted the plane to land in Seattle to collect the ransom. Here's the interesting part. Cooper was calm, polite even. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He paid for his drink, and he told the flight attendants, "I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want the money." What do you think? Would you stay calm in that situation? The pilots contacted Seattle. The FBI was immediately notified. They had less than 2 hours to prepare. Cooper's demands were non-negotiable. The airline and FBI decided to cooperate. They would give Cooper everything he wanted. Why? Because the safety of 42 people on that plane was more important than money. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed in Seattle. The FBI worked quickly. They gathered $200,000 in $20 bills. They recorded every serial number, 10,000 bills total. They also collected 4 parachutes, 2 primary chutes, and 2 reserve chutes. According to newly released FBI files from 2025, investigators assumed Cooper wanted extra parachutes in case he took a hostage. That way, they wouldn't dare sabotage the equipment, because an innocent person might die. When the plane landed, Cooper kept his promise. He released all 36 passengers. He was a man of his word. Only the flight crew remained on board. The money and parachutes were brought onto the plane. Here's where it gets really interesting. According to FBI documents, Cooper unpacked one of the parachutes to inspect it. He was checking for sabotage. This tells us something important. Cooper knew about parachutes. He wasn't just some random criminal. Cooper's next instructions revealed even more knowledge. He told the crew exactly how to prepare the plane. He said, set the flaps to 15 degrees. Fly unpressurized. Keep the cabin lights off. Stay below 10,000 feet altitude. Leave the rear stairs down, and fly toward Mexico City. The crew was shocked. Cooper knew specific technical details about the Boeing 727, details that most passengers and even some crew members didn't know. When the crew told him they couldn't take off with the rear stairs down, Cooper corrected them. He said, "Yes, you can. Lower them after takeoff." He was right. Boeing had tested this exact procedure in 1964. How did Cooper know this? At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off again from Seattle. The destination was Reno, Nevada, with a refueling stop. But Cooper had no intention of landing with the plane. The weather was terrible. A cold November storm. Rain. Wind. Freezing temperatures. The plane flew south along the Washington-Oregon border. At approximately 8 p.m., a warning light indicated the rear stairs had been lowered. At 8:13 p.m., the crew felt a sudden upward movement of the plane's tail. Something heavy had just left the aircraft. Cooper was gone. Somewhere over the wilderness of southwest Washington, in complete darkness, in freezing rain, wearing only a business suit and loafers, D.B. Cooper jumped into the night. He had $200,000 strapped to his body. He had one parachute on his back. And then, nothing. He disappeared. The plane landed safely in Reno. The crew was unharmed, but Cooper was gone. The only things he left behind, a black clip-on tie, a tie clip, and one of the biggest mysteries in FBI history: theories and evidence. So what happened to D.B. Cooper? Did he survive? Did he die? Who was he? The FBI launched one of the most intensive investigations in their history. The case was called NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. They searched the drop zone: forests, mountains, rivers. They used military aircraft, including an SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. They interviewed thousands of people. They investigated over 800 suspects. But they found nothing. No body, no parachute, no money, until 1980. On February 10, 1980, exactly 9 years after the hijacking, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was on a family camping trip along the Columbia River near Portland. He was digging a fire pit in the sand at a place called Tina Bar, and then his shovel hit something. It was money, 3 bundles of $20 bills, $5,800 total. The bills were badly damaged, partially disintegrated. But the serial numbers were still readable. They matched Cooper's ransom money. This discovery raised more questions than answers. How did the money get there? Did Cooper land in the river and drown? Was the money washed downstream? Or did someone plant it there? Scientists have studied those bills for decades. They still can't agree on how they ended up at Tina Bar. Now, let's talk about the suspects. Over the years, the FBI investigated hundreds of potential suspects. Let me tell you about the most interesting ones. Theory 1. Richard Floyd McCoy, Jr. This is probably the strongest suspect. Richard Floyd McCoy, Jr. was a Vietnam War helicopter pilot. He had extensive skydiving experience. He was a trained military man. And here's the crazy part. Just 5 months after the Cooper hijacking in April 1972, McCoy hijacked a United Airlines flight in almost the exact same way. Same method, same type of plane, same parachute jump. He demanded $500,000 and successfully parachuted out. But unlike Cooper, McCoy was caught. The FBI tracked him down using evidence found on the plane. He was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 45 years in prison. In 1974, McCoy escaped from prison, but 3 months later, he was killed in a police shootout. The FBI seriously considered McCoy as D.B. Cooper. They even modified his photograph to show him wearing the same style of sunglasses witnesses described. The resemblance to the Cooper sketches is striking, but there were problems with this theory. McCoy was much younger than witnesses described Cooper. He was only 29 in 1971, but witnesses said Cooper was in his mid-40s. Also, McCoy was reportedly with his family in Utah on Thanksgiving Eve, 1971. However, in 2024, something incredible happened. McCoy's children, Shantae and Rick McCoy III, came forward with new evidence. They found a modified parachute hidden in an outbuilding on their late mother's property in North Carolina. They believed their father was D.B. Cooper, and they believed this parachute was used in the hijacking. The FBI reportedly took the parachute into evidence in September 2023 for testing. As of 2025, we're still waiting for results. Theory 2. Robert Rackstraw. Robert Rackstraw was another strong suspect. He was a former Army pilot with a Silver Star for valor in Vietnam. He had extensive parachute training, and he had a criminal background, including fraud charges. A team of investigators, including former FBI agents, became convinced Rackstraw was Cooper. They claimed they decoded secret messages and letters supposedly written by Cooper that pointed to Rackstraw. But the FBI officially cleared Rackstraw as a suspect in 1979 due to lack of direct evidence. Rackstraw died in 2019, taking his secrets with him. Theory 3. Cooper died in the jump. Many experts believe Cooper simply didn't survive. Think about the conditions. It was night. Freezing rain. He jumped over dense forest and mountains. He was wearing a business suit and loafers, not proper skydiving gear. He had no helmet, no jumpsuit. The parachute he chose was a military-style chute designed for experienced jumpers, not the easy-to-use sport chute. Former FBI agent Ralph Himmelsbach, who led the investigation, always believed Cooper died that night. His body was simply never found in the vast wilderness. What do you think? Did Cooper survive, or did he die in the jump? Recent developments. Even after 50 years, the D.B. Cooper case refuses to die. In fact, 2024 and 2025 have brought some of the most exciting developments in decades. In September 2025, the FBI quietly released 668 pages of previously classified documents about the Cooper investigation. These files reveal fascinating new details. First, the documents confirm Cooper had extensive flight knowledge. He knew technical procedures that even some crew members didn't know. He could identify Tacoma, Washington from the air during the holding pattern, suggesting he was familiar with the area. Second, Cooper was extremely careful. He demanded every note he wrote be returned to him. He left no fingerprints on the plane. The only items he left behind were his tie and tie clip. Third, scientists have been analyzing microscopic evidence from Cooper's tie. In 2024, researchers discovered rare metal particles on the tie, including pure titanium and other materials used in aerospace manufacturing in the 1970s. This suggests Cooper may have worked in the aerospace or chemical industry. But the biggest development: the parachute found by McCoy's children. In 2022, D.B. Cooper researcher Dan Greider contacted the McCoy family in North Carolina. The children had always suspected their father might have been Cooper. They searched their late mother's property. In an outbuilding, they found a parachute. Not just any parachute. A modified parachute that appeared to match the description of one of the parachutes given to Cooper. The McCoy children, along with Greider, contacted the FBI. In September 2023, FBI agents traveled to Richmond, Virginia, and took the parachute, harness, and McCoy's skydiving logbook into evidence. The FBI officially closed the D.B. Cooper case in 2016, saying they needed to focus resources on more current threats, but they left a door open. Their statement said if anyone found specific physical evidence related to the parachutes or money, they should contact their local FBI office. That's exactly what happened with the McCoy parachute. As of December 2025, the FBI has not made any official announcements about the parachute. Are they testing it for DNA? Are they comparing it to photos of the original parachutes? We don't know. But here's what we do know. Rick McCoy III, Richard McCoy's son, firmly believes his father was D.B. Cooper. He's even prepared to give a DNA sample to compare against any evidence from the hijacking, including the tie left on the plane. Some researchers remain skeptical. They point out that McCoy was demonstrably in Utah 5 months later when he committed his own hijacking. Would he really risk another hijacking if he'd already gotten away with Cooper's perfect crime? Others argue that McCoy's 1972 hijacking was rushed and sloppy compared to Cooper's because he needed money fast. Maybe he'd spent the Cooper ransom, or maybe he was addicted to the thrill. The truth is, we still don't know for certain, but we're closer than ever to solving this 54-year-old mystery. So, who was D.B. Cooper? Was he Richard McCoy Jr., the Vietnam veteran who pulled off a similar hijacking? Was he Robert Rackstraw, the former Army pilot with a shady past? Was he someone we've never even heard of? Or did he die that night in 1971, his body lost forever in the forests of Washington state? Here's what makes this case so fascinating. D.B. Cooper pulled off what many call the perfect crime. He hijacked a plane. He got the money. He escaped. And he was never caught. But at what cost? If he died in the jump, then it wasn't really a perfect crime, was it? It was a death sentence. If he survived, he had to spend the rest of his life in hiding, never spending that money, never telling his story, never claiming credit for one of the most famous crimes in history. For 45 years, this was an active FBI investigation. Thousands of hours, hundreds of agents, millions of dollars spent, and they never solved it. It remains the only unsolved commercial airline hijacking in United States history. The D.B. Cooper hijacking changed aviation forever. Because of Cooper, planes were redesigned. The rear stairs on Boeing 727s were modified with something called a Cooper vane that prevents them from being opened during flight. Airport security was revolutionized. Hijackings became much harder to pull off. In a strange way, Cooper's crime made flying safer for everyone. But the mystery remains. And maybe that's why we're still talking about it 54 years later. Because we love a good mystery. We love the idea that someone could outsmart the system. We love not knowing. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think D.B. Cooper survived? Do you think Richard McCoy was Cooper? Or do you have a different theory? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the D.B. Cooper mystery, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next unsolved mystery. We've got some incredible cases coming up: ancient civilizations, disappearances, cold cases that might finally be solved. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today, and share it with someone who loves a good mystery. Thanks for watching, and remember, the truth is still out there. I'll see you in the next one.